American music was a very different place before Elektra Records, a place where a few labels dominated the hit parade and the only path to stardom or innovation went through them. Before Elektra, the term independent label meant little, fringe, insignificant. After Elektra and the folk revival it helped to foment, it meant where the music came first, where the real action was. No one did more to create that new world than Elektra Records and its visionary founder, Jack Holtzman. After a childhood of twin passions for audio recording and running away from home, Holtzman created Elektra at college in 1950, spelling it with a K because it looked punchier. Innovating on a dorm room budget, he created its dynamic logo with a sideways W replacing the E. Holtzman's business model might best be described as, what the hey, I'm an indie. Elektra's first album was art song settings of poems by Rilke and E.E. Cummings, selling fewer than 50 copies. Okay, that doesn't work. He was increasingly drawn to the honest intelligence and wild grace of folk music, which guided his vision perhaps more than he knew. Where others thought trendy, he thought timeless. Where others thought cheap, he thought quality. Where others thought industry, he thought people. And everything Elektra released was superb, state-of-the-art sound. Jack opened a mostly folk store called the Record Loft. It was street level, but in Greenwich Village, they dig lofts. A browsing photographer, George Pickow, mentioned his wife was a folk singer, and Elektra's second album was Kentucky legend Gene Ritchie, establishing Elektra as a national folk label.
I wanted something that was unique, idiosyncratic, and could not be duplicated. And so for me, folk music was perfect.
More early folk stars followed: Ed McCurdy, Cynthia Gooding, Oscar Brand, Bob Gibson. Elektra signed blacklisted bluesman Josh White and persuaded Broadway actor Theodore Bikel to record his vast repertoire of international folk songs. Elektra was poised to become what The Guardian called the house label of the counterculture. In 1961, Holtzman told a nervous young singer she was ready to record, and she shouted, "No, I'm not." Holtzman persuaded Judy Collins, among the revival's first superstars. Tom Paxton recalled his dream coming true with Jack muttering, "I certainly hope you sing with more energy in the studio." He did, for 7 Elektra albums. Elektra's belief in artistic freedom led them to sign radical troubadour Phil Ochs and greenlight Tom Rush's odd idea for an album of unknown songwriters: Joni Mitchell, Jackson Browne, and some kid named James Taylor. Rolling Stone credits Rush's Circle Game with ushering in the era of the singer-songwriter.
By some foolish game, she always seems to make me change my mind.
Elektra's devotion to quality before profits paid other dividends. When Holtzman wanted to license Beatles songs for Joshua Rifkin's unlikely blockbuster idea for a Baroque Beatles album, John Lennon said, "Anyone who puts out Kerner, Ray, and Glover is okay by us." Elektra also released Beatles Country by the Charles River Valley Boys, credited with launching the newgrass movement that revolutionized bluegrass. Rifkin followed his Baroque adventure with an album of Scott Joplin piano rags, igniting the ragtime fad. Holtzman said being an indie meant you could turn like a race car, not a bus, veering him into a hit series of sound effects albums, from burps to pile drivers, baby cries to blowing noses. They became faddishly popular as party novelties and licensed for films and TV. For that morning pick-me-up, there were over 20 varieties of applause and cheers, and if you got too puffy, there was always the Bronx Cheer in 3 convenient sizes. They earned Elektra nearly $1 million. Labels made anthologies to entice disc jockeys. Elektra thought, why not the public? Selling them at budget prices, they earned obscure artists new fans and the label new prestige. At a time classical records were the most expensive, Elektra licensed top European titles, selling them at low prices on its none such imprint, igniting a budget classical industry that rescued a fading genre. Holtzman also led the way on world music with a series of international folk albums on Elektra and None Such Explorer. They shied away from rock until Bob Dylan went electric.
Newport in 1965, and he's 8 bars into Maggie's Farm. Hairs on the back of my neck went up, and I knew I was going to go for rock and roll, and I was going then. What Dylan brought was a sense that you could think and boogie at the same time.
Holtzman found that intoxicating blend in the band Love, led by brilliant African-American rocker Arthur Lee, who urged Jack to catch their weird opening act. It took a few shows to see the fascination. Then Elektra signed The Doors. An indie label was topping the charts, flexing major label muscle. Doors drummer John Densmore told the New York Times, Holtzman's philosophy is, let's make art and the money will come.
I was committed. The commitment was total. Once that commitment is made, and you're true to that commitment, and you don't choke up on the bat and try to cheat on it, you get help.
Jack Holtzman sold Elektra in 1970, but that folky heart continued to propel his adventures and the indie revolution Elektra Records helped to ignite. An abiding belief in the honest song, the common chord, and the right to think and boogie at the same time.
I've been to seek a wife, she's the joy of my life. She's a young thing and cannot leave her mother. Did she ask you to come in, Billy boy, Billy boy? Did she ask you to come in, charming Billy?